America, throughout its history, has had a long tradition of being the home of a great deal of legendary heroes and their incredible journeys, from the perilous cross-country trek of Lewis and Clark to the life and inspiring death of the American frontiersman Davy Crockett. But these giants of legend have long overshadowed the incredible stories and ordeals of many other heroic and adventurous Americans. One of these heroes is Hugh Glass, an American frontiersman and trapper made famous for his incredible tale of survival in the American wilderness. His true story is an inspiring tale of heroism and determination, and his exploits will likely not be outdone by anyone far into the future. Little is known about Hugh Glass's early life. It is claimed that he was Irish-born, and that as a child he was raised by Pawnee Indians. What we do know, other than the fact that he was a mountain man and a trapper, is that in 1822 he answered a call for men to join an expedition tasked with exploring the upper Missouri River. The trip was fairly uneventful for the most part. Then, one morning, while out on a solitary trip to scout for hunting game, Hugh was surprised by a mother grizzly and her cubs. Before he could even fire a shot from his rifle, the bear attacked, swiping the gun from his hand. With no other choice, Hugh took out his hunting knife and proceeded to defend himself. Though he was severely maimed by the bear, with several cuts all over his body and his scalp from its claws, as well as the bear breaking his leg with its jaws, Hugh still managed to stab it enough times to severely wound it. Hearing the scuffle were two of Hugh's companions, John Fitzgerald and the legendary Jim Bridger. They found Hugh while he was still being attacked and managed to put the bear down for good. While the immediate danger was gone, it had come at a price. Hugh was in very bad shape. Being severely injured and unable to walk, as well as being hundreds of miles from the nearest settlement, the outlook was grim for Hugh. So the leader of the party, Andrew Henry, asked two men to stay behind with Hugh as he died so the rest of the group could keep moving, and once they had buried him, they could catch up. The two men who volunteered were Fitzgerald and Bridger. While they awaited his departure, they were allegedly attacked by hostile natives. They managed to grab Hugh's rifle, knife, and the rest of his equipment and took off, abandoning Hugh to a long and lonely death, and proceeded to report him as dead to Henry. This, though, is not the end of Hugh's tale. Later, Hugh miraculously recovered consciousness and immediately realized the predicament he was in. He was abandoned, with no weapons, tools, or supplies, hundreds of miles from the nearest settlement, Fort Kiowa. But because of his life with Pawnee Indians, Hugh was an experienced survivalist, and he managed to take matters into his own hands. Knowing the extent of his injuries would prevent him from going much further without treatment, he then set his own broken leg and managed to prevent infection of his cuts by laying himself on rotting logs and letting maggots clean his wounds. The journey to Fort Kiowa took several months, considering he crawled most of the way and he was frequently rendered unconscious because of fever and infection. He was eventually able to fashion a makeshift raft and canoe down part of the Cheyenne River. During his trek, he subsisted off of roots and berries, as well as eating the raw meat of a dead bison calf he found. After meeting some friendly natives who helped to treat some of his wounds, Hugh finally made it back to Fort Kiowa. After several months of recovery, he had a new motivation: revenge on the two men who left him for dead. Hugh spent the next 2 years of his life tracking down Jim Bridger and John Fitzgerald. However, when he found Bridger, he spared him due to his age, Bridger being only 19 at the time. Once Hugh caught up to Fitzgerald, he found him as an officer in the U.S. Army and couldn't dignify himself with taking the life of a soldier. After these incidents, Hugh found himself on many more expeditions for the next several years, all the while surviving more close calls and near misses, mostly at the hands of hostile Arikara Indians. Eventually, Hugh's dangerous life caught up to him, and he was finally ambushed and killed by the Arikara. Ironically, killing Hugh led to their own demise. Posing as friendly Indians to some American fur trappers, one of the trappers, an old friend of Hugh's, recognized the rifle of one of the Indians was carrying as Hugh's, and proceeded to capture the Indians and turn them into the authorities. They were later charged for Hugh's murder and hanged for their crimes. Hugh Glass stands out as one of the toughest and most capable frontiersmen that populated the early years of this country, and it's on shoulders like his that our country stands today. His miraculous story of survival is a testament to the determination of the human will and spirit, and we should be proud to be the cultural benefactors of his legend and legacy.